Let the truck!
You are listening to What the Truck.
Whoa. I'm here by myself. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope we have a great show today. Thank you to FreightWaves and Craig Fuller for giving me the opportunity to hopefully not make a fool of myself live on air today. We have a great show lined up for today. We have some guests, Adam DeGroot from DeGroot Logistics, Doc411, Garrett Allen from searchcarriers.com, and Chace Barber, founder and CEO of Edison Motors. I haven't talked to Chace in a while. Can't wait to talk to him about some of the updates he's got going on up in Canada. Right now, let's keep the nice, beautiful, bright lights on here and get to our sponsors. If you're ready to move more freight, make more money, and manage your freight business with speed and confidence, look to truckstop.com for tools that transform the way you move. Learn more at truckstop.com.
Spend less time searching and more time hauling loads with the Truckstop Load Board. Find the right load at the right time to put more money in your pocket. Learn more today.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Been a tough week for Gen X this week. We've had a lot of celebrity deaths. We had Malcolm Jamal Warner, Ozzy Osbourne, the jazz musician Chuck Mangione, and recently Hulk Hogan. So, man, that's rough. RIP, guys. More headlines. So Tuesday, this is a mouthful. It was the shifting gears, issues impacting the trucking and commercial bus industries in the U.S. subcommittee. In attendance, you had Chris Spear from ATA, Louis Pugh from OOIDA, and Sean O'Brien from the Teamsters Union. Each of these guys kind of brought in their own opinions and issues that they wanted to cover. Not so much what we'd see online. Most of the rabble-rousing you see on FreightX is all about the non-domicile CDL issues, but these guys each had their own issues. ATA wanted to have 18-year-olds driving 18-wheelers. I'm vehemently against that. OOIDA wanted to push back against the speed limiter mandates and the fuel taxes, and Sean O'Brien wanted to see more of an expansion in CDL training across the U.S. If you want to roll that first video of Chris Spear.
Member of this panel should be invested in creating pathways for 18 to 20-year-olds to operate safely in interstate commerce and to be able to access good-paying jobs in the trucking industry. However, self-serving, factless claims that there is no driver shortage undermine the serious work of this committee. Driver pay does not go up 19% during a freight recession unless there is a shortage of qualified drivers.
Now, where Mr. Spear kind of got this wrong is freight pay didn't go up during the freight recession. It actually went down. Freight pay went up during the COVID capacity crunch when we actually had, for a very, very small amount of time, a real truck driver shortage. And the ATA has done everything they can to try and flood the market with excess capacity. And they seem to think that having 18-year-olds driving 18-wheelers is a great idea. Vehemently disagree. Sean O'Brien from the Teamsters, he pushed back against the shortage. His issue is turnover rates. We typically see turnover up to 90% at a lot of large enterprise carriers. Here's what he had to say about turnover at his Teamster operations.
I'd like to start by talking about the state of our industry. You've all heard about so-called driver shortage, and I think you just heard one of my colleagues testify to that. We've been told we can solve this problem by forcing drivers to work longer hours and operate heavier trucks. At UPS, for example, one of our members may spend years working another position, another classification before a job operating a tractor-trailer becomes available. Once our members do get behind the wheel, most remain in these good-paying, reliable, and safe positions until retirement. At carriers like T-Force and ABF, Teamsters only experience a 10 to 12% turnover ratio. Union drivers have the best wages, health care, and retirement securities. In Teamster shops, workers are incentivized to stay. So-called driver shortages do not occur. To help make this a reality for more workers, the Teamsters urge Congress to invest in high-quality CDL training. Sadly, predatory CDL programs are widespread in this country. They take money from students who then graduate, unable to pass a skills test or operate a vehicle safely. Teamster locals in 20 states certify members and the public as CDL drivers, usually at no cost to the students. Let's grow these programs for more American drivers.
And I'm not exactly 100% behind the Teamsters, but I do think having better CDL training would be beneficial for the entire industry. Try to imagine your typical mega carrier with only 10 to 15% turnover. That's like an impossibility right now. One member of the panel that I did find interesting that he mentioned was Ed Markey, senator from Massachusetts. He was actually very smart in seeing the difference between shortages and turnover. Let's click to that video.
The word shortage implies the pool of qualified workers is too small. But 2 million people hold commercial driver's licenses in the United States, and hundreds of thousands more licenses are issued every single year. All these qualified drivers are competing for about 900,000 long-haul trucking jobs. And while there are plenty of qualified drivers available, many trucking companies struggle to retain these drivers. In fact, this is an incredible number, 90% of truck drivers leave their job after 1 year, 90%. This high level of turnover suggests the issue might not be whether there are enough drivers, but whether existing drivers are getting enough out of the job. So before we take more actions to make trucking less safe, Mr. O'Brien, do you believe that a 90% turnover rate in the long-haul trucking is the sign of a healthy industry?
No, I think long-haul trucking is a very difficult job. I think we can all agree to that. It's a lot of time away from your family, a lot of sacrifice. But if you have a 90% turnover ratio, then there is something wrong in the industry. When you look at unionized carriers who have 10 to 15% turnover ratio, that's significant because that means people are happy with their wages, they're happy with their benefits. When you have a race to the bottom and people keep leaving jobs after 12 months or leaving the industry, and I think the number we have, there's 4 to 6 million people in this country that hold CDL licenses, and I believe 3.5 million are actually on the roads today. So there is definitely a breakdown somewhere, and we know for a fact that when people aren't making the highest wages, when they're not getting the best benefits, they're not going to stay at a job.
Yeah. So when wages are too low, you're obviously going to have massive turnover. And a 90% turnover rate shows workers are not thriving. And any argument that says that they are is just not credible. My father was a truck driver, sat at our kitchen table every night, every morning. I'm a senator, but he got paid a living wage. Okay? And so truck drivers are hardworking people. My father was 6'1", 265, and you can just see what that truck driver looked like, okay? These are hard.
They had good diners back then, sir.
Excuse me?
They had good diners at the truck stops back then.
The times have changed, and we're going to have to build in protections to make sure that those people who could put 3 children through college and law school, have protections, benefits that fit the hard work that they put in every day.
Yeah, you talk to any truck driver today, the quality at some of the truck stops has definitely gone down. Let's bring on our first guest here. We got Adam DeGroot here from DeGroot Logistics. Adam, how you doing? Okay, they're telling me Adam doesn't have audio yet. Let's switch over to our second guest. Garrett, how you doing, man? We got Garrett.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Garrett. How's it going?
Good, good. How's it going over there?
Going good. Great first solo show here, guys. Everybody has a plan until someone drops their mic.
With it.
Yeah, exactly. So I've known you a little bit on Twitter for a while. I like what you're doing here with Search Carriers. It's a cool little website. Can you kind of walk us through how you came up with the idea and how you've been improving it over time?
Yeah. So Search Carriers is kind of what I've been calling a discovery and research tool. So it's really the fastest way to gather information about a carrier in the industry. So the search is super powerful. All results kind of come back in under 500 milliseconds, half a second. And we aggregate data from across over 20 sources, and we standardize them, enrich the data, and basically make it really readable for the average person. They'll just pull up a carrier, see information about the equipment, inspection history, their headquarter location, all the stuff you would get on the typical websites, but aggregated into a UI that's really easy to consume.
That's a great point. I've been using Safer for forever. Everybody has, and it's not mobile safe, or not mobile friendly. So trying to punch in DOT numbers and carrier names on your phone to look them up, it's a huge pain in the butt. So that was the first thing I really appreciated with search carriers, is that you can use it on desktop or mobile. But you've been introducing a bunch of new updates. Let's click over to the video you just sent me this morning.
Hey, this is Garrett Allen, founder at Search Carriers. We're here at Love's Truck Stop, and I just want to show you some of the new features we're rolling out, starting with our image search next week. So now on the Search Carrier search screen, we have a new by photo search option. If you click that and then choose take live photo, walk over, let's zoom into the truck, make sure the DOT is visible, snap a picture. When you're happy with it, click OK, and then give it a second for our AI to search through our millions of carriers to find the right one. It finds the carrier CRST expedited, and the full profile pulls up, and you can see all the information related to this truck right here.
That is fantastic. You don't even have to type in anything anymore. You just take used to be you had to take a picture and have it already on your phone. Now you can just take the picture live as you're passing by a truck on the highway and look up their info right there on the spot.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something where we've seen a lot of that, where people will be in a truck stop, other truckers even see this truck with like the taped on DOT or something like that. And they're like, I wonder who this is. And they'll post it on like X or whatever. And people are looking it up. And I was just like, hey, how do we make this faster and easier for everybody? So I'm really excited. Our release rolling out next week. We're going to be adding that image search you saw there. And it's available to everybody. It's completely free. So you can go on to searchcarriers.com starting on Tuesday next week. And click the button, take the picture like you saw there. It'll pull the profile up, and I'm really excited about it. It's one of the many features we got coming out. A lot of other stuff around more details for inspections, new inspection tools, looking at what people are trying to find and making it really easy to surface that.
So the site's free, but you do have a paid tier. What are the benefits of jumping into like some of the paid tiers?
Yeah. So the majority of the functionality on Search Carriers is free, but like you said, we have a premium tier. There's a couple different ones. So the first lowest is Pro. That's for people that want to be able to see like the full inspection report details. So if you actually open a carrier profile up, you can see their inspection history. And if you have Pro, you can actually click into it, and we pull all the information in for that, which includes things like if they had violations, what was the violation, was the driver, the equipment, what equipment was inspected, along with the enriched data of what kind of trailer was it? What kind of truck was it? What was the license plate? That kind of information. And then we also have a new inspection tool that's rolling out next week, which allow pro users to go in and actually search for inspections based on things like shipper name, carrier name, what week it happened on, and things like that, to really be able to just go run analytics reports and export that data and build whatever charts they want to show how the different inspections are basically happening over the year. So that's our Pro. And then we also have a Pro Plus, which is a step up from that, which gives you access to more exports, more of the, if you want to be able to like export more of a carrier list to a CSV, or have access to our API, which is again, all standardized, normalized, and enriched data. So more than just your FMCSA, but that equipment information, what kind of trailer, things like that, all through an API interface that's standardized, a lot easier to use. And then after that, we have a third, which is Enterprise, where we offer things like embedding the application, directly into your app, or more heavily customized API endpoints, things like that. So we've got, a little bit of everything for people. I didn't even mention we have tracking carrier changes. So that's another Pro feature. So if you're a carrier, one of the uses we hear is carriers use it to get their inspection reports, because we actually get inspections before they show up on the government websites by a few days usually. So if you go and you sign up for Pro and you want to track like inspection reports for your drivers, you could go onto your own profile, say track inspections, and you'll get an email usually within like 36 hours or so of the inspection, roughly, where you'll get an email in with like if the inspection passed, failed, what was the details around it, things like that.
It's getting harder to cheat the books these days, that's for sure. So one of the criticisms I typically see online is, FMCSA data is the best data. And what people don't realize is it is all the same data. You're not making these numbers up. You're literally just pulling from publicly available government data, packaging it into a nice, pretty bow. What do you have to say about some of these guys?
Yeah. I mean, they're totally right. Like, we should start from the source. If I wasn't using some of the FMCSA data, that should be a red flag to you. Like, where am I getting that data then? So yeah, a lot of the data is FMCSA data, but you look at things like inspections, for example. If you want to go through and look at all the different inspection violations, you're looking at millions and millions of rows of data with completely non-standardized fields. That'll take you, an hour to put together every report. And, we've already done all that hard work, built the processes to automatically pull those in every single night and put them together and make it so, hey, instead of having to spend, a couple hours figuring out all the inspection codes and what they mean and like finding the DOT and like this time it's zero padded, this time it's not. You go onto search carriers, type in that company name, you get that full report back. You can dig into it. You can export it. It all happens in under half a second. So, that's the value add we're bringing.
That's awesome. I am so psyched to see what you guys have cooking in the future. Garrett, it was a pleasure chatting with you. Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Okay,
Thanks.
are we ready to kick back to Adam? Adam, you there?
I'm here.
I hear sirens, so there must be audio in Chicago.
Oh, yeah. That's right. The Sunshine State here, Chicago, Illinois. How you doing?
Doing good. How's life in Chicago? I hear sirens in the background. I hope everything's okay.
Good. Another day in Chicago. That's right.
So you invited me to come up to Chicago a couple months ago to really kind of see the operations there at DeGroot Logistics and your farm. And can we pull up the photo here of this field you guys had? So you're a pepper grower for Chipotle, is that correct?
Yeah, we grow peppers for grocery chains, food service companies. Some of them end up in Chipotle in the Midwest. Yeah, that's right.
And so it was middle of May, but it was really cold that weekend, and you had incredibly high winds, and that whole field was just destroyed. It was 20 acres of peppers. And so I grew up on a farm, and I know how devastating that can be. Hopefully your insurance covers some of it. But you were telling me that even as devastating as that looks on the surface, you're able to basically completely strip out everything and then replant it in like almost no time. Can you give me an update on what happened to that field?
I wish I wore boots that day, but that's right.
It was kind of soggy.
We farm. My brothers and I farm. A number of vegetable items, but the peppers, they're transplanted. So we have them grown in a greenhouse. We bring them in. There's machinery, but a lot of manual labor. Putting them. You saw those holes in the plastic. We actually plant them into a plastic bed that's got an irrigation drip tape in it. So the first week or two is critical. We generally, we get some windy springs. This one was pretty rough. So we just bring in more plants. We always budget some extra and get them in and replant them. You can see some of them there for sure. Yeah. And they were just started. Yesterday we started harvesting those. So they've had a hell of a season so far. We had a little hailstorm a couple weeks ago. Pretty extreme heat in late June, but. Plants, like people, stressors and, tough conditions, can sometimes make hardier plants too. So
you're going from extreme cold in the middle of May to a hailstorm and now extreme heat. Those poor plants. Okay, is it true that sometimes, so like with grapes, they say that the more stress the plant goes through, the better the grapes? Is that true for peppers too?
Yeah, there definitely is a different, wine grapes, might have a little different flavor profile, but yeah, I mean, how the plants, there's defense mechanisms and they act a little differently too. But yeah, I think they come through it pretty strong. You talk about a driver shortage, earlier segment, there's always seasonally in July, but there's a little bit of a pepper shortage going on. And thankfully nobody's complaining about it on Capitol Hill. We grow potatoes. That's one of our larger commodities by acreage, cabbage, different squash varieties, bunch of stuff. So, busy time of year for sure.
Love to see it. So speaking of complaints, drivers complain about everything all the time. And anybody that can create a tool to help mitigate, any complaints out there, I'm a huge advocate for it. And you guys have, I think, a great tool called Dock411. Can you guys give us like an overview?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Doc41 at its core is all about, building this database of tribal knowledge, very granular facility details, and getting into the driver's hands effectively. And that feedback loop of, what are drivers' experiences at facilities? What do they wish they knew before they arrived? and kind of crowdsourcing that and packaging it up and offering that to shippers, carriers, brokers, logistics tech companies. We're all about, being the pipeline for that kind of granular information. So it's interesting. I look at this problem. You talked earlier about driver training and CDL, what threshold, what the policy should be for how easy CDLs can get. And it seems like in our industry, we very much, we focus on everything up to that point of hiring drivers. But that first year, and I think why there's we have such a driver turnover problem, that first year is critical. They get in the door, they get a signing bonus somewhere. And then does the training continue? Like, what are all the things that, the tools that drivers in their first year, could have to make their life a little more successful? And they don't have the wisdom of drivers that have been rolling for 20, 30 years that maybe have been running the same lane or visiting the same facilities for many years. So like part of Doc411 is just this tool to allow drivers to access that same, the wisdom of other drivers, but also like just these details that help reduce dwell time by minutes. You look at it at a large scale and it's a big deal. So we're all about that, making that first, the first trips, the first year or two for drivers, more successful and kind of break it down some of those silos in that information.
I love seeing that because smartphones weren't quite that ubiquitous when I first started trucking. My first year was the year the iPhone was introduced. I was an early adopter of smartphones. I had a Palm Trio, I think they were called. So it was like the first phone I had that had Google Maps. And that was a huge game changer because I could type in an address, look at the satellite view, and at least know which direction the docks were facing. And these days, there's no excuses. Everybody's got a smartphone in their pocket. So having apps like this really helps out a lot. So now within Doc411, you have a new feature that you launched recently called FreightSOS. Can you tell me a little more about that?
Yeah. This is another project. This was kind of a spun off. We externalized what was like an internal tool or process. So, in our claims department, in our logistics team, we ship a lot of perishable goods. Produce is, high in the list, but we ship a lot of, protein, beer, wine, spirits, like different commodities that have some unique things that can happen to them. So, what we found, as a smaller broker, we're not the largest out there, but we're always trying to punch above our weight class. We're always very hands-on and very proactive when it comes to something going wrong and trying to find a solution for our customer, for carriers. So FreightSOS is all about standardizing that process. And the kind of events that we help our customers deal with are, you need pallet restack on the fly. You've got a rejection somewhere. Maybe you want to salvage that. Maybe you need to destroy it in a very specific way in a landfill and provide the proof of that. There's truck breakdowns, or common things that happen. You need a repower right away. So like just we position ourselves, kind of think of ourselves as that routing guide for when things go wrong. There's always a plan B that we can have in place. And, we found are, the brokers, anybody that's more effective at that kind of stuff, not just waiting for their shippers, waiting for somebody to tell them where they need to go with a shipment or what to do, but actually bringing solutions. It just makes everybody's life easier. I mean, there's, now when something goes wrong, and it could be if you're looking at a 3PL, like an entry level carrier rep or somebody in operations that gets a call and they have to figure out what to do. Usually it's the most senior person within earshot that's solving, helping solve that. So it's a tremendous burden on, shippers, carriers, and brokers, just operations teams. Like one event can easily consume half a day of trying to figure out what to do. And then the financial burden is tremendous too. So we help, it's kind of a rapid response team, kind of look at ourselves as like an A team to help our partners fix things like that.
So the days of going to a produce warehouse and then having like 6 skids of rejects and then having to find the nearest truck stop to dump them out into the parking lot, those days are over?
Yeah, so in some cases we've had plenty of situations where we've helped find a higher return than what, so the initial receiver was going to be for certain commodities. But, landfills are expensive. There's a lot of companies want to keep food out of landfills. So there's a variety of ways to donate food. Just there's a tremendous networks of food banks and our other entities in the United States. So we partner with a lot of them. But sometimes commodities have to be destroyed in very specific ways. Bottled water is there's all sorts of unique things that have to happen. Like anything that's private label, there's got to be guarantees and proof that it's not going to end up on a secondary market somewhere and hurt somebody's brand. So we kind of look at ourselves as that too, just protectors of the reputations of our clients' brands, and just taking this burden off of their transportation departments too. So
That's awesome. Well, appreciate what you guys are building out there. Anything that helps drivers, I'm 100% in favor of. So, Adam, thank you for coming on with the truck today.
yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, man. Talk to you soon.
Take care. Before we bring on Chace, I have a special guest that I want to help allow Crash to show here. Lombard, you there?
On.
What's up, man?
What's up? What's with that camera angle,
do some
dude?
squats. Get some squats on there.
Do I need to duck down?
Yeah, a little bit. There we go. Yeah, good.
What's going on? Glad to be on What the Truck. By the way, just got to say, Adam DeGroot coming up there. You just talked about that with the grapes. Apparently, when the grapes are under a little bit of stress, apparently they produce a better product.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the world? Well, I it's funny how everything just ties together. When you put your body, when you test your body's limits, you add a little bit of stress, you get uncomfortable for a bit. That's how you level up and you get 1% better as a person. It's funny how it works. You could tie fitness into anything we talking about, whether it's produce, whether it's freight, whatever it takes. But dude, I'm glad to be on What the Truck. Appreciate you inviting me on.
Dude, I'm sorry we couldn't have it on Wednesday. They kind of surprised me with all the sponsored guests because they told me, invite whoever you want. I was like, sure. So I had people planned for Wednesday, but what do they say about people with plans? So what's going? What do you got going on? I hear you're going to Serbia.
Oh yeah, well, just like anything in the supply chain, things don't always go as planned, but things have been really, really awesome lately. I do just have to, I'm going to kind of sprinkle some stuff. So recently, I ran an Ironman Texas back in April in the Woodlands, and I was raising money for a nonprofit called Project 61. And Project 61 was started by Jeremy Raymer, who also started Driver Reach, which is a nonprofit fully dedicated to the driver health epidemic. And there's a lot of good stuff coming. So I was able to raise a good amount of money going into that race, a good race that I had. And there's a lot of great stuff coming with Project 61 that we hope to share with What the Truck in the near future. But kind of go along with Project 61's mission and initiative when it comes to driver health and the driver health epidemic and everything that I've been doing with raising awareness and trying to change the real culture of health and fitness in the industry. Again, I've said it at Broker Carrier Summit. I've said it. I post about it on social media quite often. When I talk about changing the culture, I'm talking the entire culture of the entire industry. Now, whether people like it or not, our industry is far and wide, including internationally. We have people, who work overseas in the country of Serbia, whether through brokerage or dispatch, and they're engaging with the industry every single day. They engage with drivers. They're engaged with, other brokerages, with carriers all the time. So when it comes to changing the entire culture, we've got to hit every single link in the chain and everywhere that this industry touches, which is why myself, Nick Klingensmith, who is in brokerage for over 20 years. So former driver and broker are teaming up and going to Serbia to link up with a dispatcher, Alex Bass, to go run in an Ironman sanctioned 70.3 event over there to go talk about this issue, because same thing over there. They have the same issues with people who work in the logistics space where they're not necessarily prioritizing health and fitness. And again, I have a deep philosophy where I believe that if we can take care and set a good foundation when we are prioritizing our health, wellness, and longevity, you're talking about benefiting the entire industry. So I'm excited to go race overseas in September and talk about and talk about this issue with individuals outside, because if we're going to have change in this industry, it needs to come from the top down. This isn't going to come, these issues when it comes to driver health. We're talking about the job of a driver removing 16 years off your life. 2/3 of just the trucking industry suffering from obesity, which is double that of the working class population. Those numbers don't explain an individual issue. Those numbers explain a very deep-rooted systemic issue. And the only way to change that is from the top down. And that's from the leaders on down. And that's exactly who we're trying to reach out to and touch. And that is everywhere. That is at the major carrier level, the brokerage level. Every link in the chain needs to be on board with this, because it's about our lives. We kind of often hear in the trucking world, the most valuable asset is the person in the driver's seat. Okay, but what is putting that into action look like? So yes, excited to race overseas.
Awesome, man. Godspeed to you, Lombard.
Thanks for having me on, brother. Have a great show. Crush it, and we'll be talking soon.
Working on it. Thanks, man. Catch you later. Oh man, I love chatting with Lombard. He is like one of the most like motivating guys you can have in your life. If you're ever feeling like you're like just a lazy POS, just text Lombard what you're doing right now, and he will light a fire under your butt and get you moving. Let's bring our last guest here. We got Chace Barber over at Edison Motors. Chace, you there?
You betcha. How's it going?
Going good, man. Long time no chat. How are things in Canada?
Been busy. They've been very, very busy, to say the least.
Looks like it. You guys have an amazing presence on social media. You're constantly putting out video updates and blog posts about what you got going on. My concern sometimes is that you guys are doing like too much all at once, but somehow you managed to pull it off.
Oh, I don't know how we're managing to pull that off. And yes, 100% we're doing. We're building a new shop. We got to build a test track for CMVSS testing of our trucks. We're building the new trucks right now that are currently in the bay. And because we moved to Golden, because it was the place we could afford it, there wasn't any houses, so nothing for the employees to move to. So we're having to build our own town. I guess technically rebuild the town. We bought an entire old town site. So we bought an old ghost town from the 1800s, and we've just been rebuilding this old ghost town and bringing it into a production shop.
I love old towns like that being revitalized. You know, you have these like skeletons lying around that have been dead for decades, and you guys come along and you had other opportunities shot down. You know, I knew you were looking at land in other places, but you found this spot and it looks like it's a good fit. Let's throw up one of the trucks you guys are working on right now.
All right, it's time for some pretty serious updates on this truck. The biggest one is that the cab is now mounted to the chassis. The batteries have been installed inside of it. Programming and wiring harness is just getting done right now. Wiring harness is now ran in the back end here. We got oil in the hubs. Correct that, we are currently putting oil in the hubs. The most critical part, the fuses have been put into the batteries. And I say this is the most critical week because sometime in the next week, we're going to be spinning those axles, which means that last year of engineering, all the hard work, all the effort, we're going to find out, hopefully sometime soon, that those tires spin, this truck works, it drives, the control system works, and then we're moving on to programming and making things smoother. But if you remember on Topsy, basically almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, this took about 2-3 weeks, so it's not going to be super quick. But we're close. That's the stage we're on. The parts are there. The parts are assembled. Now it's just a matter of getting it working. Oh, and then for those of you wondering about the cab, this cab was specifically designed by the customer right here. Kind of like it. Doors open at the front right there. I'll do a more in-depth video on the cab later. For now, I'm going to focus on getting these tires spinning.
So looking at these trucks, you know, most electric vehicles in like the Class 8 semi category we see these days, the Tesla Semi, Freightliner has theirs. They're basically taking already existing trucks and just, you know, cramming in as much, electric drivetrain as they can. But this thing looks like it's built like a tank. What are you guys building this for?
We're not allowed to talk about what that one is for, or where it's going. We call it the undisclosed truck. It was that cab was specifically designed for this customer's application. It's different than what we're building for all the rest of our customers.
Okay, so not this particular truck, but other trucks you've built, you know, previously, like, you know, Topsy, et cetera. I know you were looking at, you were trying to go for like logging applications. Last time we talked, you were telling me about how, you know, you can do the battery regens on the downhill and you're only pulling juice on the uphills. Is that still kind of like the category you're looking for, or have you discovered like so many more opportunities that you can branch out to with these trucks?
Oh, there's been so many more opportunities. We are building a logging truck in one of the first test ones, but there's also people reaching out for other applications that see the advantage of hybrid, that fuel efficient, they want to save money on fuel. There's also other places like concrete companies were interested because one of the issues is they have noise bylaws. So they want to do a concrete pour 24 hours a day, but the city comes in and says, you're not allowed to run a diesel engine between 8 o'clock at night and 6 o'clock in the morning. Those are noise bylaws. So you can't do your pour 24/7. Well, with our unique approach with the hybrid is that you can turn the generator off, drive onto the site on electric, unload on electric, and then leave on electric, meaning that they don't have to get that noise permit, which means that they can continue that construction operation constantly. So like applications like that, heavy haul applications that the new trucks we're putting out, going to have around 1,400 horsepower. So it's like, okay, for heavy haul, that makes a lot of sense.
That's incredible. And there's other applications too, like municipal waste. You know, a lot of these trucks, they only drive in the early morning hours because they can't drive overnight because of these city noise ordinances. Have you had any talks with waste transportation?
Yep. Yeah, waste transportation. I mean, there has been thousands of companies now that have reached out to ask if they could buy the hybrid drivetrain. We're just kind of dealing with the issue now. So new fun issue came up. Environment Climate Change Canada said we're not allowed to build hybrid electric trucks. So
why not?
That's an issue. So Environment Climate Change Canada put out a mandate that in Canada by 2035, all vehicles sold are either going to have to be electric or plug-in hybrid. Our trucks are plug-in hybrid because full electric cannot take a vocational truck through the day. But then that exact same week, the shop's a little noisy here.
Real shop.
Environment Climate Change Canada said that we're not allowed to build plug-in hybrids.
Is this just like an anti-truck movement, or is it like an anti-Edison Motors movement?
It's a bunch of government bureaucrats that don't understand. Hey, Eric, can you ask them to stop impacting for just 1 minute? Sorry, the shop is literally right
it's clearly a work day at the shop.
You want to just use this? You can use this instead. Oh, I'm all right. I don't have a microphone on that, so it's going to pick up the noise. But anyway, so there are a bunch of bureaucrats that just kind of don't understand what's going on, and they're saying that the diesel motor itself. I'm just going to wait for that impacting. I should have told them not to for 30 seconds.
Oh, I love live television.
Oh, it's beautiful. So here's what's going on. Now that I think we got a break to talk, we got to use generators because a plug-in hybrid's a generator. It runs fully electric, and then when the battery gets low, the generator fires up, rebuilds the batteries. Well, the issue with that is I need to use a generator motor, not a truck motor, because a generator works different than a truck. On a truck motor, you step on the throttle, you command fuel. That fuel turns into power, goes back through the drivetrain. A generator is the opposite of what a truck does, is that it senses a load on the alternator, and then the governor brings up and increases the fuel to match the load on the back end of the motor. So we got to use that style. Now, going through ECC, they said, hey, you need to have on-highway certified Tier 4 finals, which are truck motors. And we said we can't use that because we need a generator, and generators are defined as off-highway mobile. They're auxiliary power units. So it's both Tier 4 final. Both those motors are Tier 4 final emissions, but this one says on-highway on the tag, and the other one says off-highway. There's no such thing as an on-highway generator because nobody's built a hybrid platform before. So the government pushing plug-in hybrids also has a rule now that they say you can't build plug-in hybrids using a generator. And then we asked, they're like, well, use an on-highway motor. What's the difference? I'm like, well, can we change the ECM? And they said, no, you can't change the ECM. So during our meeting with them a week ago, we said, like, hey, it's impossible to build plug-in hybrids. And then all of a sudden the government, there's 3 of them, they literally said, oh, fuck, you're right. You can't build plug-in hybrids. We've now made a mandate that by 2035, all vehicles sold have to be electric or plug-in hybrids, but we don't legally allow plug-in hybrids. Is that not insane?
That's nuts. So are they going to try and have another session?
We're working on a couple of exemptions. There is a few exemptions that we can do. We asked how long the exemption takes. It's 6 months to a year, which, fuck, guys, just approve the exemption. Why does it take a year to fill out a form and say, yes, you can build hybrids? We like the hybrids. We had all the evidence that this is better for the environment, better for fuel, better on emissions. Everything on this is an improvement. Can you just sign the paperwork so I can deliver these trucks I'm building in my shop right now? And especially because one of the trucks has a partial grant to build it covered by the same department that's saying we can't build it. You're like, you guys are giving a grant to help develop this technology, but then not allowing the technology to exist. It makes you want to start a shotgun some days dealing with paperwork. Honestly, government paperwork is the hardest part of building these trucks.
What a man! Bless you guys. What a mess. So you're not only that, you're building these trucks and you don't have anywhere to test them. Let's show the video of you guys talking about your new test track.
Okay, one of the questions we got is, why don't you use somebody else's test track? Why are you building your own? Because nobody would let us use their test track. Number one, there's almost none in Western Canada. And the ones that we could ship our truck to said, you're not allowed to run our trucks here. Our trucks are heavy. They're 160,000 pounds when they're fully loaded, and we need to test at that weight. And if you phone anybody, hey, can I put a 160,000 pound vehicle on your racetrack? They say no. So what do? We build our own. Adapt and overcome.
Adapt and overcome. And that seems to be what you guys are doing over and over and over again.
Yep, 100%. Adapt and overcome. Same way for this hybrid issue with that delay that could take 6 months to a year to go into production. We've already ordered the parts. We're building mechanical tracks. So we asked Environment Climate Change Canada, and it said, hey, if we can't do hybrids yet, what do we do? And they said, well, they're like, just build a normal truck. Then I kind of asked them, like, can we build a normal truck with an 18-speed? They're like, yeah, that's no problem. We can approve that paperwork right away because you're using a motor that's approved for it. So, well, I guess we are building mechanical trucks with 18-speed transmissions over the next 6 months or whatever year until we get our get that exemption to build the rest. So I've already ordered in an Eaton 18-speed. We got a set of mechanical rear ends sitting in the shop, and we'll just build those until the government figures out their paperwork. So we're adapting and overcoming on that one. Same as we're adapting and overcoming on the test track.
Jeez. So do you think the problem is just that the technology is outpacing the law? We see that a lot with tech. You know, somebody comes out with this amazing app, and like rideshare was like a huge thing, and it just ran away from the law before the law had a chance to catch up. The difference between an app and like what you guys are doing, you're building like real world things for real world customers that want their stuff, and you're running into these laws over and over again that are preventing this from happening.
Oh, 100%. Our technology is ahead of the trucks. We're really the first people building these hybrid electric trucks, and we're the only ones in Canada. So we're ahead of where the laws were. But it does make you wonder, though, if our technology is ahead of where the laws are, why the fuck is the government mandating by 2035 that 100% of vehicles need to be plug-in hybrid if the technology is ahead of the laws and they don't even allow it to be built?
Yeah, what a mess. So you got problems with building the trucks. You got problems with testing the trucks. You also got problems with just what you call yourself as a company. For years your tagline was stealing Tesla's idea, and apparently Daddy Elon has had a problem with that lately. Are you still in the process of like coming up with a new tagline, or has he kind of been cool with
okay,
going forward?
That was pretty funny. We had because we named the company Edison Motors. Obviously, we had to go with the tagline of stealing Tesla's idea because it's a great historic joke on Thomas Edison stealing Nikola Tesla's idea. Fantastic. Tesla Motors, because we had that trademark. That was literally a trademarked company slogan we had. Tesla Motors lawyers said, hey, you can't legally say you're stealing our ideas. And we're like, we're not saying you're stealing your ideas. We're saying Thomas Edison stole Nikola Tesla's ideas. Tesla's lawyers said, no, you can't use it. We could fight it. We would probably win. But number one, I'm not going to spend $15,000, $20,000 in legal fees. Number two, the joke is it was like the perfect cherry on that joke that you have Tesla Motors saying that Edison Motors can't say that Edison stole Tesla's idea. So now we have Tesla Motors defending Thomas Edison and saying that Edison Motors can't defend Tesla.
What do they say? His history doesn't repeat itself, but sometimes it rhymes.
Yep, and it's pretty funny some days.
That's kind of what we're seeing here. So what do you guys have going forward? What's your next like big project? Or I know you have like some of the smaller electric trucks. We got like just a minute left. You want to tag something along here?
Oh yeah, the next one is these two trucks that you see behind me in the shop. They should be rolling out of this shop pretty soon. They're getting they're finishing work just up right there. Once these trucks roll out, we're going to be putting the next ones in, and we are building a new shop. So we raised some investment money in the early summer. And that new shop is just being built right now. Production starting on that, so that instead of just having the 2 bays, we're going to have a full production facility, get these trucks out there, get the next trucks rolled in. We're getting our CMVSS approval and all that to be able to sell them. We're just waiting on that Environment Climate Change Canada sign off too. And then we will be in production. So it's a pretty exciting time. Things are really coming together.
Awesome, Chace. Well, thanks for coming on Electric Truck today. I love watching what you guys are doing, and I wish you luck going in the future.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. Thank you to all the SiriusXM listeners for listening. I used to be in that driver's seat. I know what it's like. Keep it between the lines, fellas. Reach out to Doc411, app.411.com, searchcarriers.com. Thank you to Adam and Garrett for coming on today. Take care.